move around. Make sure the children okay. We ain't coming home until morning come.
6:39 in Trinidad and Tobago. Well, I referenced budgetary considerations, but actually our dialogue with the chairman of the ECA, the Employers Consultative Association, that's Keston Nanku, is to get his perspective on the call by the president of the Industrial Court on Monday for a return to the tripartite dialogue, which is, of course, government, labor, and the private sector. Earlier this week as well, we heard from the trade unions, and now it's time to get the perspective of an employers' representative association. Keston Nanku, good morning to you. Thanks very much for taking the time to be with us this morning.
Fazir, it's my pleasure to be here after such a long time.
Indeed.
How are you doing?
What can I say? We all live in this space and we have different perspectives, but
Sure.
What do you do?
Absolutely.
Give me your perspective on this call for a return to tripartite dialogue.
Fazir, from my perspective, from the ECA's perspective, this is probably the most important course of action that parties to the tripartite conversation could take at this point in time. NTAC, one has to remember, is an advisory council. And I know that my colleagues in the trade union movement, they have been making, I wouldn't say some demands, but some conditions under which they will return to the council. But I would much prefer, Fazir, to look at it from the perspective of what is this National Tripartite Council designed to accomplish at the end of the day? And it's very simple. It is to deal with matters of the economy and other labor market-related issues. And I can tell you, being a member of NTAC for its term, I have seen tremendous progress being made. Now, one has to, let me hasten to add, NTAC is just 6 years old. When compared to other similar type organizations worldwide, I have no doubt that they are where they are, and they would have come through the same kind of teething problems and challenges that we are currently facing. Notwithstanding, NTAC has in fact accomplished, to my mind, quite a lot.
Okay, so if I could interrupt you right there. One, you said 6 years old, but wasn't there the grand opening ceremony in 2013, which was 9 years ago? That's one thing. Number two, can you tell me from your perspective, what has NTAC actually achieved?
Well, let me take the opportunity to do that, and I really appreciate that. Included among the work completed by NTAC have been cabinet approval of recommendations to enhance the level of productivity and work ethic in Trinidad and Tobago, along with an implementation strategy currently being undertaken by the Ministry of Planning and Development. Recommendations to Cabinet on 2 draft policy position papers on amendments to Industrial Relations Act, Chapter 8801, and the second on the Retrenchment and Severance Benefits Act, Chapter 8813. In addition, recommendations on coordination of implementation of the report and recommendations of the post-COVID-19 roadmap to Recovery Committee on the matter of resolution of outstanding public sector negotiations. Recommendations on the draft COVID-19 workplace policy, and those are just some.
Okay, so you said those are just some. Where are we at in the process of those recommendations actually being implemented?
Those recommendations are before the cabinet. And as you know, and you can well appreciate, NTAC, and I want to stress the word, is an advisory council. NTAC is not in a position to dictate and demand from the cabinet how and when it should respond and react. Even in terms of providing reasons as to why, it has to be at the discretion of the cabinet.
Okay, so let me jump
And
in right here again, Kester Nanku. Isn't NTAC essentially just a variation of the Economic Development Advisory Board, where tremendous work has been done or is being done, recommendations are made, and the politicians have a different narrative, so they ignore all of those recommendations, and therefore, just like the EDAB, the NTAC becomes a toothless bull, well, not a bulldog, because I don't think there's any aggression from the NTAC, but it essentially is a toothless entity, which is why Labour has walked away, because they are saying the fundamental issues that are relevant to Labour and working people are being consistently ignored by central government.
Well, Fazir, I cannot deny that, but what I would like to put on the table, and we have come from, is there's hope, and there's no doubt that things should move much faster than they are currently moving. I totally agree with that, and parties to the conversation, having done all this good quality, what I would describe as good quality work, are not receiving the feedback in a timely manner, what we would describe as a timely manner, one would in fact become a bit concerned. But I hold out
Kester
hope.
Nanku, could I interrupt you? Why are you sounding so polite? Because the thing is that if I tell you, Kester Nanku, we're going to schedule an interview with you at 6:38 this morning, and every time we schedule an interview with you, we're always late. Wouldn't you at some point say, look, next time TV6 call, I ain't going to even bother to answer the phone if we always late? So the point is, based on what the Labour movement is saying, just in the inflexibility of the CPO, who is advised by the finance ministry, the narrative sounds nice, what you're presenting, but the reality is very different. Why would I waste my time to attend something where I know you really ain't taking me on?
And Fazir, what you have put on the table, I cannot deny. I cannot deny it, yeah, because I would be disingenuous. Yes, the members who comprise the tripartite conversation, we have in fact been, and we have expressed over and over our concern for what could be described as some level of tardiness in terms of responding. Because as you're quite right, this council has serious work to do and is tasked with doing serious work. The council has demonstrated its ability, its capacity, given its capabilities, cross-section of disciplines, you know. But when you're not getting the kind and timely responses, I can't argue with that, Fazil. I cannot argue. But on the other hand, I am appealing to my comrades, particularly who I have an extremely good relationship with, to let's revisit, let's give the government one final opportunity to demonstrate their commitment in tangible ways by responding.
But Mr. Nanku, the government has already showed its hand. They say we're not moving from 4%. And again, the reason I gave the analogy about the late interview, if I just told you that, you know, for the last 10 minutes we've been off the air, but we'd still like to continue the conversation, you would say we're wasting time because nobody listening to us. So it's sort of like that same thing. So why give the government one more opportunity to play political games ahead of a local government election?
Fazir, I am speaking specifically to the function and the operation of NTAC as it relates to the impasse that is presently in the public domain relative to the negotiations. NTAC has no remit as it relates to that. what NTAC did, having recognized that the public sector negotiations would have been, what's the word I'm looking for? Would have been delayed. What NTAC did is sat down as an advisory council and said, look, let's put together, document all these outstanding negotiations when they became due and all of that, and made a recommendation comprising of a committee, a cross-functional committee, to treat with it, of which Labour, given their level of interest at that time of the council, had 2 seats at the table. Where that recommendation is, I am not sure, but I know that that document was prepared. So in the negotiations on collective bargaining is covered within the Industrial Relations Act, as you are well aware. And it's a process. NTAC has no jurisdiction over that collective bargaining process.
I hear you on that completely, and I'm not trying to suggest by in any way, shape, or form that is NTAC's remit. But if, correct me if I'm wrong, if I am part of an advisory council, labor, employers, government, is it not reasonable to assume that all 3 of us are equal partners in the dialogue?
Absolutely, Fazir,
right.
Because that's what one of the fundamental tenets of tripartism.
Right.
Trust and equality when you come to the table.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds like the Commonwealth, where they talk about a Commonwealth of nations, when you have extreme poverty in some and richness in one or two. And that's the point I'm making, Mr. Nanku. You're telling me that we are all equal partners sitting at the table, but as soon as the meeting ends and we go outside the door, you're really letting me know how you regard me. So why should I even waste my time attending something which is really pretense, when in reality, in the real world out there, you are treating me as a lesser partner? Why should I be part of this?
So what you're pretty much suggesting is that there's inconsistency in terms of the equality, that tenet of equality as to how partners should be treated.
I'm not suggesting, Mr. Nanku. I'm stating that is an obvious fact, because if the employers, for example, were to be told on Monday afternoon, purchase tax on any import is now up 100%. That any foreign goods, the duties have now increased by 95%. You would hear the ECA and others getting on and making noise, and probably would have second thoughts about turning up at the next NTAC, whatever it is. Because you could talk all the talk, but it's the action that tells you your real intention.
Mm-hmm. Fazir, as I have said a couple minutes ago, I cannot argue or I cannot deny the facts that you have put on the table. It is a fact. All I am suggesting is that where we are as a country, and I guess this is the reason why Her Honor made that plea for a second year last year. She made the same plea at the opening of the court, okay? The term for the court. This year, she has taken the decision to reiterate, because we are going down a road probably back in 1965, you know, which brought life to the Industrial Stabilization Act. And as responsible citizens of this country and people who sit in leadership roles, having accepted that we have been fooling around and not really speaking truth to our commitment, we have to make that bold decision, accepting the reality as to where we are, the relative impact and what it is doing to the society and the citizenry, to do something about it. And that's where I'm coming from. I accept the fact that as a sitting member of NTAC, There are lots of things that I got pissed about, excuse me, and angry about, just like my colleagues. Yeah. But I am of the belief that in the national interest, now I know national interest means different things to different people, but I am standing behind what is in the national interest. I'm not suggesting that what is being demonstrated is right. It's bloody wrong. It's unacceptable. Unacceptable to say the least. But at the end of the day, Fazir, we live here and we have an obligation, to my mind, because we can only do it if we're on the inside. We can't make the change if we're on the outside. And this is why I am asking my comrades to reconsider whether it means having a meeting of minds, very open and frank discussion. And I'm not talking here about the impasse, the collective, the negotiations that are going on, but intact. I mean, I am amazed, Fazir, about how long it's taking for us to recognize that the platform is burning. The platform is burning. What are we doing, or what are we prepared to do and to demonstrate our commitment? You see, choice is a function of awareness. And the fact that we are aware, I would expect, and I'm appealing to all my tripartite partners, let's speak to the Honorable Prime Minister, have him request his presence at a meeting where we can have the meeting of the minds. But this cannot continue for much longer, Fazir.
Kirsten Nanko, time has run out on our discussion, but it's obviously something that will remain part of the dialogue, whatever comes out from the budget presentation, and indeed whether there will be any concessions to the labour movement as far as their demands and so on. But we want to thank you very much indeed for taking the time to be with us this morning to share in our discourse.
Yeah. Fazir, just before I leave, I just want to take this opportunity to wish our Twin Island Republic a very happy Republic Day tomorrow.
Indeed.
And thank you for this opportunity to share, this short discourse.
Absolutely.
Thanks again. Best wishes.
Indeed. And we were on air for the length of our discussion this morning. 6:56 in Trinidad and Tobago. When we come back after the break, we'll put the focus on the issues that could have led to a frustrated woman killing her own child. The whole issue of the mental state of an individual in a situation like that. But let's head to a break with this image of the El Esmeralda ground in central Trinidad, a double rainbow taken by Michelle Ramnanan as we go to the break.